Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Chelsea Echo and welcome to your preview of Chelsea versus Ipswich on Sunday. A big fixture for the Blues as they look to retain a place in the Champions League spots. As you can see, I'm in slightly different surroundings today, and you will have obviously not seen last week the preview on YouTube. That's because I was midway through moving and obviously couldn't edit it because moving house is tough. And I'm currently back in sunny Tunny on the Costa del Kent. Dan is in the what do we say Maidenhead is? Like, I've got sunny Tunny Costa del Kent. You're like, what county's Maidenhead in?
Berkshire. No, to me, whenever I see it, it's Berkshire.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, we need to figure out.
on a good day like today, it's Berkshire. On a bad day, it's Berkshire.
So we're just trying to figure that out. You've got the Costa del Kent. We need to figure out what's a B? What's an island name? It's
The Bahamas, the Berkshires.
The Berkshire Bahamas.
Yeah, man.
Oh dear. Dan's in the Berkshire Bahamas. I'm on the Costa del Kent. It's all sunny. It's a lovely day where I am. Dan, is it nice where you are?
Yeah, it is. I feel like we're going to pay a high tariff in the UK for all this nice weather in the upcoming months.
Oh, mate, it's like the tariff jokes are driving me insane now. It's brilliant. We've got some cracking ones later in the Donk Report. What we don't have is a cracking game to talk about last night for me, especially that first half.
Aren't you happy, Louis? Aren't you happy? You got to be
No,
happy. We won.
no, no. I got absolutely slaughtered on Twitter because I said, why don't I put a tweet out saying, leave our Carwall and Madueke coming on. Maresca's a moron. Honestly, Madueke then scores 2 goals. What I should have contextualised that with is saying that why he's taken off Palmer. I don't have a problem with Madueke coming on. But we spoke about all of that in the final score show yesterday. So if you want to go listen to all our thoughts on everything around that game, that's all there. And I will say, Dan, it is an absolutely spectacular show. The score absolutely went for somebody and it was fantastic. That somebody was me and teams. And a lot of people enjoy me being yelled at. So if you enjoy that, make sure you go give that a listen. But obviously, with the weather being nice, we want to be all happy. We want to be nice and chill. We want to make the most out of this. And Chelsea are obviously coming back into Premier League action and hopefully going to get a result against Ipswich. But before we get into that, Dan, do you want to tell everyone what's happening next?
Is it the Donk Report? Are we there already?
We are there already. I can't be bothered to talk about this Ledger Warsaw game, to be very honest with you. What is there to
No, I
talk
mean,
about?
people should go and listen to our voice note. Listen to the score, and that will sum up the game. I don't really know why we should waste like 5 minutes on. There's more important. The Dog Report comes first, mate. It's true.
Everything sounds better with a donk. That's the thing. I think that is just like absolutely spectacular truth. And we got the seal of approval from DJ Bovrelgate on Twitter a couple of days ago. So that was spectacular, and that's exactly what we needed. So more of that, please. But ladies and gentlemen, let's get straight into it. Let's give you your week in review because you've heard all about Ledger Warsaw. Let's talk about everything that's happened this week in the world through the Chelsea lens, through the Donk Report. Chelsea travelled to Warsaw on Thursday night with the Conference League fixture happening. Just under 800 brave Chelsea fans faced threats of violence, intimidation and hostility. The worst thing they faced was that first half.
Chelsea have announced a new sponsor, Vietnamese technology company FPT. The club aims to develop them, which includes being thrown in the bomb squad and loaned to Strasbourg as they don't fit the current style of sponsor.
Todd Bowley was spotted smiling behind Donald Trump as the LA Dodgers were welcomed to the White House. However, the smile was in vain as he faced a 104% tariff on his imported Chinese Chelsea underwear.
Maresca told reporters he's looking for a clone of Jackson in the summer window. In an effort to deny rumours he wants to play robotic football, he went on to say that his favourite film was I, Robot.
It's been confirmed that Saturday Night Live is set to get its own UK version in 2026. Among the rumoured hosts, they're set to include Ange Postecoglou, online Arsenal fans, and a Pedro Manuel.
And finally, Caicedo is facing a potential court summons after being stopped by police for allegedly driving without a valid licence. It said the reason for this was Caicedo was trying to intercept Winstanley Stewart for taking credit for PSG's win over Villa. There you go. There's the Donk Report. There's your weekly Donk Report.
That is fantastic. I mean, I couldn't help but watch Kavicha Kvaratskhelia absolutely tear Axel Disasi apart a couple of nights ago and think, yeah, that's not good. But then know for a fact that when Stanley and Stuart are saying, "Well, this is our case study, and this is what PSG are doing. We're looking to do something very similar, and look, it's working for them, so it'll work for us." Mate. It works for them because they've actually got competent people in charge, lads. That's just a fact of the matter. If I'm going to be very honest with you, people can say we're being overly negative, but fuck them, don't care. We are. And if you don't like it, go listen to the podcast. If you do like it, get involved and give us a 5-star review. And if you don't like it and you don't want to listen to another podcast and you do want to listen to this podcast, hate listen to it, at least tell us why you don't like it, because that will really help us. But Dan, look, Donk Report, all done. The best bit part of the show sorted. Stat Shaggers will be making a return in 2025, 26, but we're lulling it down for the time being. But let's look ahead now, right? Chelsea looking to face Ipswich in a game which realistically, on paper, they should be winning. But I'm sure everyone said exactly the same thing when Chelsea played them in December. In fact, a lot of people did, and I was very much going, I've got a bit of credit. They've actually not been as bad as people think they have been. And they obviously went on to win the game. Is Enzo Maresca under significant pressure to win this game?
Well, he should be. Like, it's a game that Chelsea simply have to win. I was just looking at the stats, right, of like where Ipswich rank in the Premier League, and because we don't have stat shaggers till next season, so this will have to do. But I think this just paints a picture of how bad Ipswich have been. And listen, I'm not, I think in some ways it's a shame, right? Like I think their failure is maybe a reflection on the financial issues in the Premier League. That's a broader issue. But if you just look at the stats from this season, they're third. They've got the third lowest goals, the third most conceded, third lowest clean sheets, third lowest in XG, bottom for touches in the opposition box, and second for XG conceded. In so many metrics, they're basically where they're positioned in the Premier League, which is 18th. But in others, they're even lower. There's really no excuse here for Chelsea not to win this game. Because if you can't beat Ipswich, then who can you beat? It's kind of the reality, right? And it's one of those bankable games. Like the reason people feel like if you're more optimistic about Chelsea getting Champions League football, surely part of your reasoning for that is that you've assumed that the points are going to come from games like Ipswich at home, because the home form really has to be flawless between now and the end of the year for Chelsea to get that Champions League spot.
Which, to give
So
credit to, by the way, it actually hasn't been
no,
terrible. It's
it's
been
been
pretty
good. I
good
mean,
recently.
I think it's a run of maybe 5 Premier League wins at home now. You add them up: Southampton, Leicester, Spurs, and I think before then it's Wolves and West Ham, unless I'm missing one out. So it does go back a fair way. You would say all of those games Chelsea should be winning, but they
Yeah.
you do need to win them. I mean, as people fairly pointed out, if you look at last season, we lost. We drew at home to Burnley. We did lose silly points at home, like Chelsea have done that in the past. But yeah, I don't really know. The biggest intrigue for me about this game is you can kind of refer to it maybe as the Liam Delap derby, because that I think is the biggest narrative part of this, obviously in terms of interest in Delap for the summer. I have we spoken about Liam Delap? I don't think we have. I just wrote a piece on Substack about it. Do you? What is your thoughts on Liam Delap as a
I
potential
mean,
summer signing for Chelsea?
for 30 million quid, I'm not going to turn my nose up at it. I think
I
he's
thought
got
you
a
were
lot
going
of
another way.
potential.
Then I thought you were going to say for 30 million quid, no chance.
No, 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 no. I think for £30 million, you've got a very high potential player. And I know that goes against everything I've been saying over the last several months in regards to Chelsea don't need any more high potential players. Liam Delap feels slightly different in the case that he's somebody who not only is high potential, but he's already proven that he has a decent return in the Premier League in his first season. I mean, 12 goals isn't too bad for, as you said, the form that Ipswich have been in. He's put the ball in the back of the net, and that's what matters. So, I mean, I'd very much be keen to see him in a Chelsea shirt. I do question what that means for Nicholas Jackson, because I do also think that Chelsea would need to bring some more senior figure. I did mention in final score that I maybe wouldn't mind seeing Jackson out on the left hand side and more of like maybe a Nelka and Ancelotti mould. I think there's a player that can do that there, and he proved that last season a couple of times when he's played on the left wing. So I think that's definitely an opportunity there for him, and I think it would actually mean that Chelsea don't go and sign someone stupid. What am I talking about? Of course, I can sign someone stupid. Everyone's talking about Gittins at the minute, but I just don't see the hype.
Did you not listen to the Gonk report? The Gonk report, the Donk report. Louis Beneventi. We just spoke about Caicedo's having to intercept Winstanley and Stewart. There's going to be more people who are going to have to intercept
I know.
Winstanley and Stewart.
I know exactly. Exactly. You're going to have to get like 11 Caicedos, and that doesn't exist. But I mean, look, for me, I very much would be keen to see Liam Delap in a Chelsea shirt. A lot of people have been saying that, Enzo Maresca's silly for saying he wants almost like a copy of Nico Jackson, um, and saying that you need to have a different mold of striker. And I semi get that. But I also think that Chelsea need to actually master their one style of play, because evidently Enzo Maresca is not someone who has a plan B and until his plan A is perfected. And if it means that we've got to stick with that, then, let's give him the tools to make sure that he can make his plan A the best. If he can't make his plan A the best when he's given all the tools, that's a different conversation for a different day. But I do think that Liam Delap would be a great option. I'd like to see him and another striker come in, and I'd like to see Nicholas Jackson moved out to the left hand side. And I think Nicholas Jackson on the left, Liam Delap or Victor Yokres would be my choice, down the middle, and then Noni or Esteval on the right. I don't think that's a bad front three and a bad set of options, to be honest with you.
No, I agree with that. I think Liam Delap to pay that amount of money for someone who's scored 10 plus goals in the Premier League is stupid, really, in terms of like you can't believe how low that fee is. And I can only assume when they signed him, because he only signed last summer, they couldn't have anticipated what Delap was going to turn into. He'd had loans in a championship away from Man City, obviously very highly rated from City's academy, but to take like a duck to water in the Premier League and very much feel like he's, despite playing in a relegation bound team, has flourished. And that's the thing I'd make people aware of. Some of the things I've seen asking back is, a low block thing, like how many times has he come up against a low block? And what I'd say is, well, it's very hard to find that evidence, because until he moves to a team who are a lot more dominant, who dominate more games, who are better, you're not going to figure that out. You can't say for certain right now Liam Delap can work against that or can't work against that, because he hasn't been put in that environment yet. I would say
with that though, sorry to cut you off there, Dan, but I think the one thing that people don't do in that situation is, I appreciate they're thinking that, but they're doing an Enzo Maresca. You're overcomplicating. I really think they just look at the base ability that he's shown. He's physically strong. Someone agrees with me because they're tooting, or they disagree with me because I hate the podcast. I can't hear. Sorry about that, guys. He's physically strong. He knows the back of the net is, and he's quick. I'm sorry. Like sometimes I think when people go into all the statistical analysis, the deep dives, all this sort of stuff, I get it. But just based on the eye test alone and basic attributes, he has everything you can have and need to work in the Premier League, in my opinion. And I think if it works against lower blocks, if anything, he'll use that physicality to pin a defender. Guess what? We've seen him do that already this season. So surely in a low block, that's going to give another option, allow these players around him, the Cole Palmers, the Esteval Williams, the Nonnies, the Nico Jacksons, these lads to sort of really start to flourish around him and play off of him and allow the team to become even more impactful at the top end of the pitch.
No, I completely agree. Like, I think that the numbers are just impossible to argue against. They're not like the best you've ever seen, but they
No.
are enough, I think, to take a look at and go, well, that is noteworthy. And I think you look at the attributes of him as a player. I'd urge anyone to find a comp that is probably out there on YouTube of the variety of goals he scored this year. And I think the positive about him is that he does seem to score from different areas. It's not the same type of goal over and over again. He does have a trait where, and he showed it against Chelsea in the build up to the second goal back in December, where he does have speed about him. He does like to get the ball and, very much head down kind of towards goal and be a counter-attacking force. But there are some goals where he's outside the box and he's taking a shot. There's some goals where it's just a knockdown from a teammate and he's classic kind of striker inside that 6-yard box, inside the width of the two of the posts, and putting it in the back of the net. He scored one like that against Wolves quite recently. So there's a variety within his game, and I think that physical kind of chaos merchant type demeanor to him is obviously something that Chelsea fans like. And I think the big thing about Delap, right, is you throw Delap into this squad, and you look at Thursday, you look at Brentford, you look earlier in the year when Jackson was off form or struggling, and Maresca either wasn't looking at his bench or wasn't starting with the only focal point he has. And you see the problem that provides, especially in the Premier League. And the hope is that then you get Delap, you have Jackson, and then you're not left in that position again where
Mm,
you at least have an alternative, a serious alternative like Mark Guiu. Whether Mark Guiu should have been used a little bit more over Christmas, I'm not entirely sure. But at the very least, you've got an alternative there. So, and to me, it has to be an open goal for this current Sporting. That we say all the stuff about them like jokingly, but he's got Man City connections. Joe Shields is obviously there. They've done a lot of groundwork on this guy. He has a previous relationship with Cole Palmer. Enzo Maresca probably likes him. It's too kind of obvious, this deal. It feels like the one kind of specialist deal our ownership or sporting director crew have mastered. It's the other ones they've really struggled with. Cole Palmer, Tosin Adarabioyo, Romeo Lavia. You can argue Enzo Maresca's part of that as well. It's this small kind of think tank of where we kind of look in the vicinity of the City group, and that's about it. So if it turns out to be a great signing, and maybe you could argue, if you're cynical, it's kind of by accident, whatever it is, I kind of expect them to do this deal and get it over the
mm,
line. I think the only
mm,
thing that concerns me slightly is the Athletic reporting that in the chase for him, Man United are probably in there as well, is that wages. And if he has a kind of a flurry of clubs in front of him, like there's even chatter of some European clubs potentially there for him, the likes of Bayern Munich, maybe even Inter Milan, right? Because we know the financial disparity between the Premier League and the rest of Europe. If you're a European club, you're looking at it and going, he scored 12 goals in the Premier League. Look at his age. We can get him for 30 million, whatever that is in euros, and maybe a little bit more in euros. And, that'd be a great signing for us. And my one concern would be, as we've seen with Michael Elise 12 months ago, is that when they get into the room and a player asks them for competitive wages, we seem to fumble. So just because there's groundwork done, the Elise deal kind of shows you that doesn't mean they can't fumble it. So yeah,
exactly.
I think there's two sides to this, right? I think the simple question is, do I think Liam Delap signing for Chelsea makes our squad better currently? I think he does. I don't know how much better, but I do think he gives us better options, which is surely the intention of a transfer window.
Yeah, and you'd like to think that's the case, but we'll have to see how everything develops with that, because I'm with you. I mean, I heard the latter of what you're saying, where the competitive wages come in, and that is where I do worry about these guys, and this model. So if we want to grow in the right direction and can compete, you look at, again, we took the mickey at the PSG game earlier, right? That's the model they look at. It's very similar to what Chelsea have got. They have competitive wages. They're building a competitive squad. You look at that Chelsea team versus that PSG team, blows us out of the water. And that's because I think there's certain limitations to how we're doing our stuff. So, we've got to see how all of that develops, and what Chelsea can do to really try and make a difference in that situation. But Liam Delap is not currently a Chelsea player, so we're going to pull the old managerial card and go, we can't talk about players that aren't ours, despite the fact we just spent at least 5 minutes doing so. With that, though, Dan, we probably should move on to the Echo 11. Now, I know, guys, you've noticed the past couple of pods have been quite short. It's because Brentford and Ipswich, there's not really a lot of talking points, and the dog report just summarises everything perfectly. So, with that being said, Dan, let's get into the Echo 11. Let's go through things. We can talk a little bit about Brentford because, of course, no one heard the voice note review, and there was no final score show that day, again, because I was moving. So, apologies for that, guys. But with all that being said, I mean, look, Brentford showed a really lackluster, slow team. Led you Warsaw in the first half. Same thing, because it was a completely different side. Again, there were some great signs of promise, and I'm sure we'll be talking about those players in this team. But first of all, let's get the goalkeeper out of the way. Dan, Marcus Bettinelli.
Yeah, Bettinelli till the end of the season is give it bets till the end of the season is kind of my strategy.
Exactly. Bettinelli is the Echo 11's first choice goalkeeper. Now, the back four, it gets kind of interesting now. So, a fun fact I heard uh, from the commentary team on the Ledger Warsaw game last night is that Cucurella this season is Chelsea's highest scoring player since January in the Premier League.
Yeah, in 2025.
Yeah, in
That's true.
2025. So that is absolutely nuts for a start. So he's got to go in at left back. There's no arguments there. The centre halves, I thought Levi looked pretty good when he came on against Ledger. I know that goes against everything I said on Twitter. For me, it just didn't make sense to make a defensive change, if I'm very honest with you. I get Noni coming on. I don't get Palmer going off. But, that's just me. And I'm sure we're talking about Carl Palmer a little bit later on in the show in the Echo 11. But, I mean, look, defensively, it's going to be what? Levi, Colwill, and I guess it's going to be Tosin for you, maybe?
He said explicitly, Maresca post game, that they'd already planned for both Palmer and Tosin to come off at half time. The Palmer one,
Mhm.
I disagree. I actually understood why they took him off at half time for fitness.
You want your best players on the pitch, though, don't you? If you're
No,
0-0,
you
you
do.
want.
Yeah. Like, listen, you shouldn't be. Yeah, game state matters, right? But listen, in
Yeah,
hindsight, everyone turns around and goes, "Well, we scored quickly after half time. The game was done very quickly. So who cares, right?" Um,
yeah,
I think Toast. It's hard to know because just based on the management of the midweek game, where you have Levi play, you have Badia Shield come back into it because obviously he's been injured for quite a while now. So at least it gives Maresca an option. I kind of think
mm,
Tosin will start because I don't know why. It'd just be very weird to take Tosin off at half time. I mean, to me, I'd probably still would prefer and and Levi as the back two, but I think he'll go with Tosin and Chalobah. Um, maybe at home. I don't know. It's hard to say because Levi and Trevor thought had a good game against Spurs. Tosin and Chalobah, I mean, they weren't awful against Brentford, but Brentford did have a few opportunities. So I have to say I'm a little bit I can't say for certain. I'm gonna lean towards Trev and Levi purely because it's a game where I think Chelsea are gonna obviously have a lot of the ball
yeah,
and there's gonna be an impetus and I think that especially in the case of Levi, hopefully his passing on that left side can be quite integral for us.
yeah.
That's the only way I'm like logic wise going. That would not make any sense in terms of why you took Tosin off at half time, but that's where I'm going. I don't know about you. It's just this is one of the more confusing areas of the pitch
Yeah.
for me for this game.
I think I agree with you. I think that's what he's going to go for. Um, I'd start Tosin if he's come off at half time. I do think that physicality in the box is going to be very important, considering what we've literally just spoken about with Liam Delap. Um, I think
Didn't do
that's
well against them
definitely
last time though.
that is also true. That is also true. But I'd like
And
to think he's learned
Trev
from his
wasn't there
lessons.
last time, so
Yeah. So okay, let's go with Trev then. Let's try something different. If it doesn't work, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again. So we'll go for Trev at right centre back. Right back, we're going to put Reece James because that's where he should be playing. Because in central midfield, he's played so many times there now. He doesn't look like it's right for him at all for me. Um, it feels like a waste of space and a waste of a player. So I'd like to see him start up right back. Your three in midfield. Romeo Lavia is unavailable. Surprise, surprise. So who is it? It's Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer.
yeah, I think all those three. It's just nice that Caicedo and Enzo got a rest because they just haven't
Mm,
been able to. So they got at least 7 days rest from Brentford. And I have heard actually, last week we were talking, and we have been talking about this for quite a while, is the whole suspension thing.
yeah.
This is the last game. If Caicedo avoids a yellow on Sunday, he's fine for the rest of the season.
Oh,
Uh,
result.
so so some hope there, but typically we know how these things go. I think it was like Diego once was avoiding yellows for so long, and literally the last game he had to avoid, he got a yellow that probably wasn't even a yellow. So let's hope Caicedo. I mean, if it's like if Chelsea are winning and there's like 60 minutes gone and he ain't got a yellow yet, I'm taking him off. I'm getting him off the pitch. Is kind of
Hmm.
would be my strategy, not just to rest him, but to ensure he ain't getting that yellow, and then tell him don't. If there's any antics off the pitch, do not get involved. You're going. There's been a too much trouble with you this week already. Just go in the dressing room, just watch Netflix. Black Mirror's up there now. You can watch that if you want on the Cobham treatment table, and that's it. Just save him for what next week, Everton, right? So
Yeah, exactly, and I think that would make a lot more sense. And I do think that that's what we should be doing. Cole Palmer's an interesting one, right? He's been a little bit off the boil recently, has he not?
oh no, he absolutely has, but he did still. You look at his numbers this year. Was it chances created or expected assist? I'm not sure which one it was, but I did see a stat out there that he's almost neck and neck with someone like Mo Salah. Like there are still impressive stats out there. Now I don't know if a lot of that is weighted like stupidly for like the first half of the season, but they still were reflective of how influential he's been. And it's easy to forget that he did set up the winner against Spurs. That was a brilliant ball in for Renzo's header, and I just still have the belief that the talent's there, right? And we need to find a way to get it clicking again pretty soon for not just the Champions League qualification, but also you want Cole Palmer starting that Conference League final if we get there, right? So
Yeah.
we need to find him a goal soon. He needs to start clicking into gear.
Mm.
So I just would keep on playing him. Like the alternative here is Christopher Nkunku. So that is what I'd say to people. So yeah, that I just have faith that something's going to click into gear, and I think it will be as simple as Palmer scoring one goal. I think it might be a
Mm.
case of him scoring one goal, maybe getting that overthinking and doubt and confidence back, and hopefully then he can just go back to where he was before, where he's a regular scorer, he's a regular contributor. Because it does look like maybe he's just a little bit in his head, and that record of just every game that passes and he doesn't score, doesn't play as well as we know he can. Maybe it plays on his mind a bit.
Yeah, I agree, and that's something which I hope that he can challenge and take on. And I do agree with you; it's going to be as simple as him scoring one goal. In terms of scoring goals, Nonu Madueke, I'm guessing, goes into our starting 11. Hopefully, he can continue to build on those two goals that he scored against Legia Warsaw. That is the one thing which I think you and I have spoken about on multiple occasions this season, is his lack of consistency. So we want to see that. On the left-hand side, it has to be Pedro Neto for me, purely because Jadon Sancho. We can talk about the 2 assists he got, but again, it's Legia Warsaw. I'll be very honest with you.
I have to say I disagree about Neto.
Who'd you start on left then?
Well, I'd think based on the last run of games, I think either Sancho or Tyreek George have a better case. Sancho, I think, massively stepped up his performance in the second half. He objectively helped Chelsea to win that game. I'd love to see Tyreek George get a start. I don't know why he hasn't, and that was a massive moment for him on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Neto, as people have pointed out, Neto's production and actual end product is nowhere close to what we would have hoped for the money we spent on him in the summer. Like that's just undeniable. And that's not, what's the word, alleviating or kind of saying that all the criticism of everyone else is unfair. But as people point out to me, like a lot of criticism has gone on the shoulders of, say, Jadon Sancho. And then when you actually look at the end product of Neto, you kind of go, well, you should be looking at him as well. And Neto does give his all, right, and he collapses to the floor at the end of each game. But it's not. I think Maresca's likely to do what you're saying, and I think because he didn't play any part on Thursday. But in terms of actual form, Neto doesn't come to mind at the moment. I just haven't seen enough from him. Right, I don't. I think there's a lot of. I think people see the name and they see what he can do at his best, but then the actual evidence of his form is not giving a reflection of a player who should be starting week in, week out. If I'm Tyreek George off the back of a goal, even if I'm Jadon, I'd be critical of Jadon Sancho. I think there's still a lot of problems with Jadon Sancho. But even Sancho can turn around and go, well, look at my performance in that second half off the left, where I directly contributed, set up Madueke twice. Especially the second one was very impressive, the way he cut that ball across the 6-yard box. So yeah, Neto, I think, has to earn his place back.
Fair enough. Do you know what? I will take that argument and I will agree with it. I think that's fair enough. Okay, for us then, Echo 11's got to be Tyreek George then.
I'd be very excited to see Tyreek George. And I'd like to see Josh Acklenpom come off the bench. Either intercept the midfielder or right back. I don't care which one. I want to see him feature in this game off the bench.
Yes. Absolutely, I agree with that, and that's definitely something which you and I need to hopefully see happen because he was great in that game. He was great, and I hope we should be seeing more of him, more of Tyrek George. Should be seeing more of Cobham in these teams, and it's not me and Dan being Cobham sexuals. That's just us seeing the quality that we're producing and wanting to see it come and play in a Chelsea shirt at the senior
It
level.
is also us being
Um,
column sexuals. No shame.
Okay, we'll let you have it. But then with that, obviously, that leaves the front line leading with Nico Jackson, pretty standard, and that is the Echo 11. So just go through it in one more fell swoop. Bettinelli in goal, James at right back, Cucurella at left back. We've gone for Trev and for Levi as the two centre backs. Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo in a double pivot with Cole Palmer in the number 10. Right hand side, we've got Noni. Left hand side, we've got Tyrek George. And up front, we have Nico Jackson leading the line. But that is that. That was a Donk Report. That was your preview of Chelsea versus Ipswich. The Final Score Show will be back with the score after the game. Dan and I will be leaving our voice note reviews as well for you to get involved with and have a lot of fun around that. Dan, anything else you want to add for the fine listeners at home?
I think that's about it.
Not going to talk about the
It's been a
5-star
decent.
reviews and all that stuff,
Yeah,
just
5-star reviews.
there we
Share
go.
with your
Yeah.
cat. Share with your dog.
Yeah, Dan always says cat first because he's obsessed with cats, and I've got 2 dogs lying over there, and it's fantastic viewing. It's great. Just one lying in the sun, and you want to talk about cats. All dogs go to heaven. Cats hate people. They eat your face when you die. But that's another conversation for another day as well. If you have enjoyed the Chelsea Echo, please give us a 5-star review. It really does help the pod out a lot. And of course, please make sure you share this with your friends and family and anyone who loves Chelsea. A short 30-minute listen for you at home to enjoy all the news and the roundups and things you need to know about Chelsea this week. Give this a subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Drop a like on the video as well. And if you're listening, like we said, 5-star review, head across the Dan's channel as well for more great content. And we'll see you for the next one. Ta-da.